What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikaPikaPaPa, and today we're talking about the top 10 cards that exchanged hands the most on TCG Player in the month of August, and I get so almost irrationally excited to do this video every single month, and that's because we have been doing it for 8 consecutive months, and without question, every month for 8 consecutive months, we walk away with some awesome learnings, right? So when you think about it, like, we are aggregating data from TCG Player, and when you think about the forums for buying and selling TCG cards, eBay is number 1 and TCG Player is number 2. So when you can get this type of information from a website with that kind of volume and that kind of activity, like, this is macro level, hobby level data. Like, there's all kinds of cool indicators in here, and we always walk away with some awesome information. Now, we don't just look at the card. We're obviously going to see the cards and we're going to see their current card prices and how the card prices have been trending, but we're also going to look at a couple other cool things too. So we're going to look at the set that it comes out of in either the booster box or elite trainer box, right? So say the set comes from Lost Origin or Silver Tempest, we're going to look at the booster box price, but if it comes from a set like Crown Zenith, we're going to look at the regular Elite Trainer box price. And as I said, we have been doing this for 8 consecutive months, so I also have this little star system because it's really cool to see some cards that have been on here for consecutive months. Now, if you're on here 4 months in a row and then you fall off on 1 month and you're back on the next, you start over at 0. There is no continuation. So the star system only represents how many consecutive months a card has been on this list. And I'm telling you right now, this list is full of studs, and I cannot wait to share it with you. But before I get into that, listen, we do fun stuff like this all the time on the PikaPikaPapa channel. So if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, we're building an amazing community. We would love to have you be a member of it. And if you have questions or comments, drop them down below. And if you like what you see, give us a thumbs up. Hey, those 3 small things go a long way in helping my small channel out, and it lets me know you appreciate the work that we put in. So before we get into it, let's jump over to this, which is always, hey, listen, talking about what's on the list is important, but talking about what has fallen off the list is equally important. So listen, these 4 cards were in the top 10 last month, but they have now fallen off this month. So you look at Battle VIP Pass and you look at Forest Seal Stone, right? Those are obviously cards that are played heavily in the TCG game right now. So I think people are probably filling up their decks. So of course they're, the volume with which they're exchanging hands on TCG players probably falling off as people don't need them anymore. And then you got the Pikachu card. The Pikachu card has been on and off this list. Like, it's a beautiful card from Crown Zenith. You all know that I absolutely love it. Not because I think it's going to be, worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars in the future, but just because I love the artwork and I love the Crown Zenith set in general. And then this Magikarp card right here, like, everybody, I have yet to find somebody who doesn't think that this artwork is absolute fire. So yes, it was number 6 last month. Yes, it has fallen off the list this month, but I would not be surprised if this one pops back on in the next couple months because the card is an absolute freaking stunner. So now that those that have fallen off the list are out of the way, let's talk about what is on the list. So remember, TCG Player appeals to collectors, but it also appeals to game players, right? Like, a lot of people who are out there playing Pokemon, having a ton of fun at their local tournaments, are big consumers on TCG Player, and this Giratina V-Star has rocking a deck right now, and that's driving the price up. But at the same time, hey, we know Giratina is one of the top graded Pokemon in the entire space, right? Like, Giratina has a ton of momentum, and spoiler alert, you're going to see another Giratina card on this list as well. So yeah, this one's primarily being used for gameplay, but it's a beautiful piece of art, and it's a ball Pokemon, right? And it comes from Lost Origin. So as much as it's cool to talk about this card, look at that Lost Origin booster box price, right? We saw it come all the way up, then there was the restock, and it's coming all the way back down, and I am a buyer of Lost Origin all the way down because I think Lost Origin is going to do what Lost Origin was destined to do, and it is going to be a great sealed product in the long run. So number 10, Giratina V-Star. Number 9, you heard me in the beginning say how much I love the Crown Zenith set, which I absolutely do. This Arceus card right here is no exception. It is an absolute stunner, right? You see on the left-hand side what the Crown Zenith Elite Trainer boxes were doing. It got all the way up to close to $60. Then there was the announcement that they're going to restock this product in October, which makes a lot of sense. We've been talking about the possibility of that happening because it's such a great product. It only came out in January. It was getting a little hard to find in stores. And of course, Pokemon wants a lot of people to have access to this in December. So I am not surprised to see the Elite Trainer box price come down. And think about this. A lot of people are going to be buying in October. Sure, some people will be ripping, but I'm sure a lot of people will also be buying and holding and gifting this product. So these singles prices, which have started to flatten out, maybe over the next 3, 4, 5 months, we'll start to see them come down even more. But does that bother me? Not at all, because this is one of the best Arceus cards, if not the best Arceus card in the whole Sword and Shield era. So do I think this is going to be fine in the long run? Abso-freaking-lutely. So hey, listen, this is a stunner of a card. I'm keeping a close eye on the singles, and I'm also keeping a close eye on the sealed product because I love Crown Zenith, and I think in the long run it is going to be a great, great product. Now, Coming in at number 8, speaking of great products with great long-term potential in my mind, Celebrations Charizard. Now you can see the card price right there. It has been really choppy, but at the end of the day, if you trend line that out, it has been on a slow growth path up and to the right. It has also been on this list 3 months in a row. Now, the fact that you can get it at a same price that you could get it 6 months ago, hey, listen, I think Celebrations hits 2 years old in October. Like, it is getting to the point where we're starting to find less and less Celebrations products out there in the wild, which I think is only going to bode well for this card as well as the sealed product. Look at that Elite Trainer box price. Again, pretty much flat over the last 6 months. There's going to be a point, I don't know when that is, I don't have a crystal ball, but there's going to be a point where we look back and say, oh my God, we might have missed the boat on Celebrations, because I do think that this is going to pop up. It's a great set. It's a nostalgic set. It's an anniversary set. Checks all the boxes for me, and I love seeing this card up here. Now, getting into number 7, as I said, hey, another Giratina card, right? Giratina is on fire in so many different spaces. From a PSA grading perspective, it's always one of the top 10 Pokemon graded right now. And the interesting thing is we have seen it flatten out in price just like we saw the Arceus. But I do want to say this, even though it's flattening out right now, even though it's at that 6, 7, 8 month price point, because we know that there's going to be more of this interjected into the market through the restock that we expect in October, I'm not in a rush to buy any of these, to be honest with you. I want to see what the restock does. I want to see if it drops these prices even more. I have no concern about this all of a sudden, disappearing, because I know for a fact more of these are going to be out there. And another freaking stunner of a card that has been on here 4 months in a row. So Mr. Giratina, my hat's off to you, coming in at number 7. Absolutely love this card. Another card that I love, just the character that I love in general, is Iono right here. So we finally have our first Scarlet and Violet card on the list, and I'm going to say this loud and proud right now in front of everybody. I love Paldea Evolved. I was on the fence about it for a long time. I was like, will it, won't it? But the fact that you can get this for under $100 a booster box right now, you have this Iono card, you have that Magikarp card that fell off the list but we talked about earlier. You might see another card from Paldea Evolved here later on in this video, and I'm telling you right now, I love the set, I love the artwork. I think this is a sleeping giant in 3, 5, 10 years from now, and I think this card is going to perform really, really well as well. Coming in at number 6, Iono, love this one from Paldea Evolved. Coming in at number 5, this one fell off the list last month, and I was heartbroken, right? Like, I almost cried real man tears because the Giratina from Lost Origin fell off the list. But guess what? Everything is right with the world, because here it is back here. Now, it has had some downward pressure from that restock, right? But remember, we looked at all of the most expensive cards from 2022, the top 10 most expensive cards from 2022, and we said, hey, how have they performed so far in 2023? We did this exercise a month ago. Almost all of them were down. Guess what? The only card that was positive was this Giratina right here. So yes, it's getting kicked in the shins a little bit because of this restock, but I feel like it has the wherewithal to continue to do well. $278 is a mint for a ultra modern card like this. I'm not saying it's not worth it. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy it. I'm not saying if you don't own it, you shouldn't be very, very proud. I am just going to say that right now, for a box that's going through a whole lot of restocking right now, booster box prices coming down. I think there's a lot of it in the market. $278 is a whole lot of money, so I am holding off for a little bit, but I think this card is going to perform really well in the future. So number 5, Giratina, love it. And then Undisputed Champ. You can't argue it. Look at this. That's 8 freaking stars right there. I had to make the stars smaller to fit them on the slide, because this Lugia from Silver Tempest has been on the list every single month, despite new set releases, despite new cards getting hot, despite all of these other crazy things happening. This Lugia has maintained its position on the top 10 cards that have exchanged hands the most on TCG Player through it all. Now, what is most exciting to me is throughout the last 8 months, we have seen it on a downward trend with no hope of it turning upwards, because it has just been down and down and down and down and down. But look what we see here in the most recent price chart. We see it is starting to tail up, which I think makes a ton of sense. So I knew this was going to at some point hit a price where people were just going to say, that's too cheap, like I have to have it in my collection because this card is too awesome. We finally got there. I don't know if it's going to maintain its upward momentum. Silver Tempest is in the middle of a restock itself. That's why when you see the booster box price there on the left, it was going up and then it fell back down. So who knows what's going to happen. All I'm going to say is that the market has proven time and time again, month after month, that there is a lot of interest in this card, and usually that's a good sign of things to come in the future. So this number 4 Lugia card from Silver Tempest is a banging card for the long run. Now, Number 3, speaking about the long run, here it is, the base set Charizard. I'm very proud of myself because usually I snip this information from TCG Player, and normally this is a picture of the base set 2 card, but I went ahead and did it myself, and so now it doesn't have the 2 signal on there because a lot of times people point out in this video, they say, well, that's a base set 2 Charizard picture, and I go, I know, but I snip it from TCG Player, and you guys don't care, so I'm gonna stop rambling about that. But the real interesting thing to me is, listen, the Charizard character in itself has been under some pressure. This is the first time since we started doing the grading videos, 2 months in a row, Charizard has not been the #1 most graded Pokemon, right? Pikachu has been the #1 most graded Pokemon at PSA for the last 2 months. What does that mean in the long run for the Fire Lizard? I don't think a whole lot right now. I'm not reading a lot into it. I don't see Charizard being dethroned as the, the big dog in the Pokemon space, but it is something for us to keep an eye on to see if there are any other sneaky Pokemon which could be popping up there in popularity, right? This card has been on here 2 months in a row, but for the last 8 months, it has been on and off and on and off, and I am always excited when we see the base set Charizard doing well. For me, that just projects overall strength in the hobby, so I love it when this card makes it on the list. Coming in at number 2, the Moonbreon. I mean, what can you say about the Moonbreon that hasn't been said, right? It's been on here 3 months in a row, but guess what? It has been on here on and off for the last 8 months. It has seen some price depreciation as of yet, so it is down $100 from its all-time high. It was all the way up in the $650 range. It's now down to the $550 range. I don't think that's a bad thing. I still think, again, when I say sometimes these cards are going to do what they're destined to do, I still think it's going to be an iconic card. I don't think this is a sign of overall weakness in Evolving Skies or in this. I mean, look at the booster box price. The booster box price is up 10%, but one of the things that I do track about this card is the overall number of PSA 10s that get graded. So last month, right? So a couple videos ago, we saw an increase of 325 PSA 10s. Then last month, we saw an increase of 612 PSA 10s, and this month we saw an increase of almost 500 PSA 10s. There is now 8,263 PSA 10s of this card out there, and the reason that I track that is because I want to understand, like, how is that going to affect the price point? Does it get to a point where there's so many PSA 10s out there that the PSA 10 price starts coming down and the raw card starts coming down? We certainly don't have enough information to validate that or to debunk that, but that is why I talk about it every single month, because I know how important this card is to the hobby. I know how important this card is to the Sword and Shield era, and I just want to make sure that we're talking about it in a bunch of different ways so that we can understand how this card performs, because guess what? There's going to be other Moonbreons in the future, right? So understanding how this one performs is going to help us out a lot in the long run. Now, coming in at number 1, I couldn't be more excited. I have been talking about this card ad nauseum. I've been saying this list isn't complete until this card finally makes it. I said, hey, listen, I know a lot of people are using Iono in the game. I know there's a lot cheaper variants of this one, so I understand why it wasn't on there. But in a recent video that I did, I don't know, a week and a half ago, we saw that this card was in high demand but low supply on TCG Player, and guess what? This absolute stunner of a card, and one of the main reasons I love that Paldea Evolved set so much, is finally here. And not only is it here, it was the #1 card that exchanged hands the most on TCG Player last month. Yes, it has come down, but guess what? This is not what I consider a typical Pokemon pop and flop, right? It hit as high as $140. It is down to $100. Over 3 months, it's down 40%, a little over 40%. But at the end of the day, I think this card has the longevity. I think this card has the strength to do well. I think Paldea Evolved is going to be available at a very approachable price point for a long, long time. But I am one of those people, when I see what I think is a great set and I see the price point below $100, you better believe that whenever I can scrape together an extra $100, I am adding some Paldea Evolved sealed booster boxes to my collection. Now, I could be completely wrong, but I just think there's so much strength in this set. I think it's flying under the radar. There's some whispers about maybe they didn't print as much of it. We will see in the long run. And again, nobody hit the panic button. Nobody sprint out there and start loading up on Paldea Evolved, because we're going to have lots and lots of opportunities. But I am pumped this card is on the list. I am pumped that Paldea Evolved is under $100, and I am excited to see which other Paldea Evolved cards might end up on this list next month. So listen, that's it. I love this video so much. If you made it to the end and you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button yet. Questions or comments, drop them down below. And as always, if you like what you saw, give us a thumbs up. I hope you guys have an epic one, and I appreciate you more than you know. See you, everybody.